What's going on, guys, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for February 18, 2022. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and welcome to the rebranded Wrestle Rant channel. No longer are we just Graham G.S. Matthews here on the channel. The rebrand went into effect late last night during SmackDown, and we got a new logo, name, channel art, everything. So hope you guys enjoy the changes. I'm going to go into effect today over Elimination Chamber weekend, and we're going to get to that pay-per-view on Wrestle Rant Radio on Thursday, a full breakdown of that event and everything else going on in the world of wrestling by that point in time. But today we're talking SmackDown from last night, which does have a lot to do with Elimination Chamber today, coming up in mere hours as I record this. These SmackDown reviews don't usually go up this early on Saturdays. A bit of a forewarning here for anyone checking out this review. Usually they go up a lot later on Saturdays, Saturday afternoons, Saturday evenings, really whenever I have the time. But we are doing this on the earlier side this week, largely because there was no Rampage after SmackDown this week, which was great, saved me some time. Got to watch NXT Level Up live, record this, so that worked out well for me in that respect. But we had a go-home show edition of SmackDown on Friday, and quite honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. This was a pretty solid show, all things considered. It was taped last week, certainly not the most must-see show. We already knew coming into it, a lot of people knew, didn't say it here in the review last week, Sami Zayn is the new Intercontinental Champion. Now, it wasn't even, I probably would have been spoiled anyway from looking at my timeline. Someone would have posted a picture. It is what it is. WWE, as soon as the title change happened last Friday night, immediately put up a tweet, put up an article on their own website spoiling the title change. So when WWE goes out of their way to spoil a title change on their own show, then you know it's fair game. I didn't talk about it myself for those that may not have seen it, but yes, that did indeed happen on the show. We got a new Intercontinental Champion, thank God at long last, in the form of Sami Zayn. That's not a knock on Nakamura, no pun intended, but his reign was just so uneventful and boring, and there was nothing going on there. He really had nothing going on with that Intercontinental Championship reign, so it is over. We'll get into all of that momentarily. To open the show, we had the very polarizing, much talked about contract signing for Elimination Chamber today, pitting Ronda Rousey and Naomi against the SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville. So this was the segment that had a lot of people talking coming into the show, because one of the spots from the contract signing that someone caught on video, posted on Twitter, I saw it, I'm sure you saw it as well, and they still aired it as part of the segment. They just got a different camera shot, and it didn't look terrible. It didn't look as bad as it did in the video that surfaced on Twitter right after the show was taped last week, but it still did not look great. If that was the best camera angle they could get, that looked fucking terrible. I guess it wasn't terrible, but it still was not the best, and it is a tape show. There were other ways of either cutting it out or, I don't know, it wasn't like it was a botched line, and maybe there were some botched lines, because the editing of this segment in particular, even compared to the other matches and promos on the show, felt very heavily edited, and that took away from any enjoyment I had from the segment. It was decent overall. It felt more like a train wreck than anything. I appreciated the last-minute build to the tag team match on Saturday, a match I'm actually looking forward to. We're going to see Ronda Rousey back in the ring. We know Naomi and Sonya can work well together. Charlotte, despite my qualms about her character in 2022, and 2021 for that matter, we know she can go in the ring. She had a great match with Naomi last week, so I'm looking forward to the match. This segment, the verbiage and just the editing, and that last, when Ronda smacked Charlotte's head into the table, it did not look great. Even the edited shot they used did not look great, so that was that. Again, I appreciate the attempt to get people more excited than they were previously for that match on Saturday. Felt like a failure, and that kind of set the tone from the beginning. This wouldn't be a great show. But then, thankfully, it ended up being a pretty solid show. At least I thought so. And SmackDown has been very underwhelming for the better part of the last, I would say, 4 or 5 months, pretty much since the draft. This was far from a great show, but it ended up exceeding my expectations with it being a tape show. So I appreciated that. They did have a lot of time to kill. So we got several segments on the show. It wasn't all video packages, but because it was a tape show, they didn't want to tape a lot in front of a crowd that already saw SmackDown the week before, because they were taped back-to-back last Friday night in whatever city they were in. I think it was New Orleans. So they did that. And in addition to all the matches and promos and whatever, and I'll just mention it here, we got a lot of video packages for Elimination Chamber. And with it being the go-home show, it kind of made sense. Like, they showed the video package in its entirety for Becky Lynch versus Lita. The video package for Roman Reigns and Goldberg, who went face-to-face on this show. We got the video package for the WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match. But the best one of them all that I gotta highlight here, the amazing video package they put together. And I think it went up on YouTube or Twitter or whatever earlier on in the day. I didn't catch it because I thought it was just highlights from his career, like a video they've shown before, but it was, I don't want to say original new material, but it was a new video package they put together for the purpose of The Undertaker being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame over WrestleMania 38 weekend in Texas. That news broke earlier today. Huge news. I literally just got done talking about this on Wednesday. That Taker, I don't know why they were waiting so long to announce him for the WWE Hall of Fame in his native Texas. Thankfully, they did just that today. First thing Friday morning, which is great. They played it up here on SmackDown. Like I said, it was a pre-tape show, so they threw in some quotes from Michael Cole and the announcement of the Hall of Fame, and I think tickets being on sale. I'm pretty sure that the Hall of Fame, though, is being taped after SmackDown in Dallas or wherever SmackDown is that weekend. So it's not like it's going to be its own ceremony. It's lazy, yeah, but at this point, I mean, it's not like the Hall of Fame has been this grand event for years. And now, even when they did have fans a few years ago, we had people fucking running the ring. We had chants. It was just it was a nightmare. And honestly, those events always ran way longer than they should have as an isolated event. I've never been. Maybe I will go this year. If it's after SmackDown, it would kind of force me to stay and watch it, specifically for the Taker induction. And honestly, if they induct more people, I wouldn't be surprised. That's what WWE does. I would just have him be the only one. If it's after SmackDown, and it's not like you're going to do 10 people and have it go until 3 o'clock in the morning, the weekend of WrestleMania, I don't think that's ideal. Just have Taker do his speech, have a couple of people talk, or just one person talk, or have Taker go for an hour, whatever it might be. You don't need to induct 7 people. You never need to induct 7 people a year. But to induct 1 or 2, or just The Undertaker in this case, because he kind of deserves a wing all to himself, I would have no issue with that whatsoever. So, as far as this show goes, they aired this great 5-minute video package dedicated to highlights from his career, played a Metallica song in the background, which was fantastic. I forgot the name. It was like No Shame or Cry or Die or something like that. It was a song I looked it up on YouTube. It was a song from like 12 years ago. I thought it might have been a new Metallica song, but it was a song from like over a decade ago or longer. I don't know. The video on YouTube was just posted at like 12 years ago, it said. But it fits so perfectly. It was just fucking badass. I tweeted it last night. It was just this badass video package. So I hope they replay that before it goes in. They don't air something else, because if they replay this one, that's all you need. It was a fucking great video. Usually you get the 90-second, oh, they're going into the WWE Hall of Fame. It's The Undertaker. The guy deserves to have this long video package, as long as his entrance. I saw people complaining, oh, why is this still going on? One, it's a tape show. They wanted to kill as much time as possible with this Friday Night SmackDown show last night. And not only that, the guy fucking deserves it, so stop complaining. And it was a great video package, so who cares? I really enjoyed that. We had Ricochet versus Sheamus after that, and a very good match. The problem is that this feud, quote-unquote, has meant absolutely nothing. I've enjoyed the matches. Some have been far better than others. Like, I think we got a Ricochet-Sheamus match a few weeks ago on SmackDown. We've really gotten every combination of Cesaro against Holland, and Cesaro and Sheamus, Sheamus and Ricochet, Ricochet and Reg Holland. We've gotten every combination of that, plus tag team matches a million times over since like January 1st, since day one. It's time to move the fuck on. It feels like it's been going on a lot longer than that, because we get these two teams against each other every single week with no real added variation, no other meaning behind it. It's not like, from what we know, they're fighting for a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. They're really just fighting over nothing. The only thing of value in this feud that we know is that Ricochet broke Ridge Holland's nose back at day one in that tag team match. That's it. But Sheamus was the one fighting here, not Ridge Holland, so whatever. From an in-ring standpoint, they worked well together. It was a fun match. Ricochet won. He won with the recoil. Sheamus and Ridge Holland had some tension teased there. Sheamus pushed Ridge Holland down afterwards, so maybe Ridge is the one going heel. Honestly, I would rather turn Sheamus. Sheamus is a great heel, but he can also be a great babyface if he's not doing the dumb comedy that he was doing 10 years ago. Like the babyface that he was when he was aligned with Drew in late 2020, early 2021. That is what I would want to see out of Sheamus. And honestly, you can play off of the Sheamus-Roman Reigns rivalry. Not that Sheamus would be the one to beat Roman Reigns, but, you know, he's beaten him before for his WWE Championship 6 years ago. You can play into that, or 7 years ago at this point. You can play into that. They have good chemistry together. The roles would be reversed. The last time they feuded, Sheamus was the heel and Roman was the face. And everyone was booing Roman Reigns anyway, so you can play into that. There's a lot you can go into there. It's not a WrestleMania match, obviously, but as a post-WrestleMania match, and Sheamus has won a lot lately, beyond this match, he's won a lot lately anyway, so why not, you know? I like Ridge, and Ridge turning babyface I guess would be fine. It feels premature. I just don't really know where you go with him as a babyface. A couple of Sheamus or Ridge Holland matches sounds cool and all, but even if he beats Sheamus, do you do Ridge Holland and Roman Reigns? Feels a little soon for that. Ridge Holland and Sami Zayn? Maybe for the Intercontinental Championship. It's not like SmackDown has any other top-tier heels. Happy Corbin, who gives a shit? So I would rather turn Sheamus, give Ridge Holland some more time as a heel. I wouldn't have broken the two up just yet, but it's not like anything on the show really matters anyway beyond anything involving Roman Reigns, so who gives a shit, I guess. I enjoyed the match. Ricochet wins. Cool, finally. I doubt they'll actually capitalize on the victory for him. This felt more like it was about Sheamus and Ridge than it was the Ricochet win. Whatever. At least it was a good match, and we'll see where they go with it from here. We got Jey Uso one-on-one with Ivar before the SmackDown Tag Team title match at Elimination Chamber. How anyone could possibly care about this, I have no idea. The Usos are essentially an extension of Roman Reigns with the whole bloodline thing. People like the Usos. The Viking Raiders, to me, they're good workers. I like the Viking Raiders. They have never been more irrelevant in this company for the last 3 years. The whole Raid thing, changing their music was a mistake. The campy, crappy, shitty Viking cosplay shit has got to go. It won't. They've been doing it for 3 years now, and they're still doing it. The promos suck. They can go in there and have a kick-ass match, and maybe they'll have that kick-ass match on Saturday. I assume it's a 5-minute affair. The Usos win, and then we move on. I wouldn't even have the Viking Raiders win anyway. I feel like this feud has been so cold that to have them win would be a mistake. The Usos should probably at least hold off until WrestleMania to lose the titles. But yeah, I mean, this was a pretty basic bout. Ivar won via disqualification after Jimmy Uso got involved. So they didn't even win. They couldn't even give Ivar a win over Jey Uso. I know Jey Uso won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal last year. He's a bigger single star at this point than Ivar is. But then just don't do the match. They really needed a bigger build and more of a reason for us to think that the Raiders could beat the Usos. At this current point, I have no reason to believe that the Viking Raiders are walking out of that show the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. So this was a fine attempt to get people to care about the match on Saturday. I still don't give a shit, even though from an in-ring standpoint, it could be a good match. I don't know how many matches we've actually seen between the Usos and Viking Raiders, so it's a fresh match. The problem is that they're doing it 2 or 3 years too late, because at this point, no one gives a fuck about the Viking Raiders, and that's just a shame. We had Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss interrupting Drew McIntyre. Less said about this, the better. The feud sucks. You know, I applaud the effort from really everyone involved. I'm not a big Madcap Moss guy at all. To me, he just screams generic. He showed he can go in the ring with Drew at day one. I'm sure at Elimination Chamber they'll have another good match. This time with a Falls Count Anywhere stipulation. The Madcap gimmick itself is fucking awful. The Happy Corbin stuff has gradually gotten worse and worse. And McIntyre is getting dragged down to this bullshit, because we all know it's leading into Corbin and McIntyre WrestleMania. That's the worst part. The worst part is that we know the end game is that match. McIntyre beating Corbin accomplishes nothing. It is a clear placeholder feud, because they have nothing else for Drew to do going into WrestleMania. They have no other stars on SmackDown. You got to bring Goldberg back. Roman Reigns is doing his thing. You got to bring in Brock Lesnar. None of that has anything the fuck to do with Drew McIntyre. So he's just kind of stuck in this purgatory right now with two guys that either should be in the tag team ranks or the mid-card at best. And even then, like, Moss, they got to tone down a little bit. as far as putting him on the TV as much. I just feel like there's other people on the show I would rather see featured and pushed ahead of Madcap Moss. People like Ricochet. People like Ali before he requested his release, and they did absolutely nothing with him prior to that point. People like Ali, Ricochet, Sheamus, Nakamura, we were hardly seeing up until this point. People like that. Cesaro, God forbid. I mean, I don't know. They're trying so hard to get this Corbin Madcap Moss shit over, and people don't like it, and I guess that gets some good heat, but the character shit is just terrible. And McIntyre is just way above this. This does not feel like the same guy that was going for the WWE Championship for the last 2 years of WrestleMania. This feels like a complete undercard feud going into Mania, a match that should last no more than 5 minutes. Very similar to Drew's feud with Jinder Mahal, that very short-lived feud in the summer, going into SummerSlam last year. That match went all of 5 minutes, and then it was over. And they never went back to it again. And nor should they have, because it should have never happened in the first place. Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, Intercontinental Championship match. This was great. I was worried, and obviously the TakeOver match is still first and foremost from 6 years ago. A number of things here. One, I'm happy WWE held off on even doing this match. I don't know if that was intentional. Knowing their booking history, it probably wasn't. It wasn't like they were saying to themselves, oh, this is such a big money match, we can wait until later down the road to do this match. I don't think so. I feel like they just never had the time or an opportunity to do the match until now. But it is cool to think that they have not had Nakamura and Zayn. They were aligned for a little while when Nakamura was champion the first time back in 2019. They were, they were buddy-buddy at that time. Beyond that, they have never, and still haven't up until now, had a one-on-one match since NXT TakeOver Dallas almost exactly 6 years ago. It was almost 6 years ago to the day from when they announced that match in NXT TV. Zayn's NXT farewell. It was Nakamura's debut in NXT, and it was one of the greatest matches I've seen, period, and one of my favorite matches from 2016. Just a really, really good match. This wasn't going to capture that same magic. The crowd was fucking exhausted. This was not Dallas in August, or rather April of 2016. But they raised the stakes with the Intercontinental Championship being on the line. They had a couple of callbacks to that matchup. They were given plenty of time, nearly 20 minutes. They worked very well together. My only nitpick against the match was that the finish kind of came out of nowhere. Zayn threw him back in the ring. He clipped the knee of Nakamura, and then he pinned him and it was over. Unless Nakamura got hurt, or I don't know what happened. It's not like the match was 5 minutes. It was a good 20-minute match, and then it kind of came out of nowhere, the finish did. Listen, no complaints. Zayn winning the championship is for the better. I've said Sheamus really should have been the one to take the belt off of Nakamura for 2 reasons. 1, we haven't seen Sheamus as IC champion before, or 3 reasons. 2, I just feel like we have not seen him as Intercontinental Champion. I just said that. But also due to the fact that him and Nakamura would have been a fresh feud. And, I guess there really only were 2 reasons. But I wanted to see the match, too. I think Sheamus and Nakamura, they can still face off eventually, obviously. Does Sheamus take the belt off of Sami? I just feel like that prolongs that. Sheamus wasn't doing anything anyway. They really had no reason to not put him in this spot. All signs seem to point, though, to Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville. Yes, that Jackass star. Not that he's a jackass, but from Jackass, facing off for WrestleMania for this championship. I don't know how I feel about that. I talked about this on Hashtag on Wednesday. It gets eyes on the championship, I guess, but there is a reason why they haven't had celebrities go for championships at WrestleMania before, because it's fucking foolish to think they're going to win. Sami is very entertaining. He's killing it in this current role. Good for him to kind of get a consolation prize of sorts in the form of the championship. Maybe I'm more of a traditionalist. I would rather see this match between Zayn and Nakamura happen at WrestleMania, or Nakamura face Sheamus, or do Sami Zayn and, not Kevin Owens because he's on Raw, but someone like that, defending the championship, a lot like WrestleMania 2 years ago. We got Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan in a very good match that Zayn won, shockingly, and they never did a rematch on it. I mean, they did a rematch on SmackDown months later, but never really fully finished out the feud. And that was a very good match. I would rather see something along those lines, but, I get if it gets more eyes on the product, whatever. Knoxville seems like a cool dude. Cool, but I don't know. Even the idea of Johnny Knoxville winning this championship, as much as the feud has exceeded my expectations, it just sounds fucking foolish. So I'm not a big fan of that. If they do it for the championship, I feel like the match doesn't even need the title is the thing. Like, you could have had Zayn lose here and then do the Knoxville match, assuming that's where they're going with this. Do that anyway and have Zayn beat him, or obviously I think he should beat him. I don't know, man. It's just weird. It's weird because I don't think that match needs the championship. Maybe they could tell the story, oh, what if this jackass star wins the title, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I just feel like that's more suited for like the 24/7 bullshit, not the Intercontinental Championship. But the title's meant nothing for so long now. I would say for a good at least year since Big E was champion. So I guess why the fuck not? I mean, like I said, at least it gets the belt on the show. But I don't know. It was a great match, though. Sami Zayn deserves this. Hopefully Sheamus will get his run eventually. But this was a very enjoyable match. To close out the show, Roman Reigns, Goldberg face-to-face. Not really much of a face-to-face. This really went all of like 5 minutes. Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns spoke for 4 of those 5 minutes. Goldberg comes in, cuts a promo for about a minute. They face off, and that's it. Goldberg kept his shit short and sweet. He said, Roman Reigns, I was mistaken. You're not next. I am, because I'm the next Universal Champion. It was basic Goldberg stuff. I thought this was better than the sit-down interviews they did last week, which were fine. The Goldberg, the stuff that they're going with is just silly as far as like, oh, I'm better than ever. Like you said that the last 2 years he's been back, and he hasn't exactly been better than ever, so I'm glad they're even doing the match. I am looking forward to it. Roman Reigns needs to win. I think he will win. This company would be ridiculous to have Goldberg win. But as I've said before in many other places, and I don't mean this as a defense to WWE, but their booking is just so incompetent most of the time that you honestly don't know if they're going to do the wrong thing. Like if this was AEW or practically any other company, I would say there's simply no way that Roman would lose to Goldberg. But because WWE has time and time again done the dumbest thing possible in having the wrong people win, we genuinely do not know. So I am curious to see what they'll do on Saturday, how they do it, the match is any good, if it's a shit show. We'll have fun watching it, I'm sure, either way, come Saturday, or come today, actually. So this was fine. This was a good way to close out the show. Overall, honestly, a better than expected edition of SmackDown. Far from must-see at this point. If you're listening to this on Saturday morning, which I would expect you to be before Elimination Chamber, nothing to watch before the pay-per-view. It was a pre-tape show. I got to mention this, though. First of all, 2 things. One, make time to watch. I was going to say just the Taker video, but that Zayn and Nakamura match was great. So make time to watch that. The Undertaker tribute video as well. That was fantastic. The other thing I wanted to say, though, they're not going to, but they really have to tone it down on the awful, awful, awful piped-in crowd noise. It is literally the most unbearable that has ever been. And this is the same. I mean, this is not new to WWE and SmackDown. They were doing this when SmackDown was a tape show for years and years and years and years. They added in the piped-in crowd noise for the longest time. It is worse now than it has ever been. These shows, I mean, this was a pre-tape show. They're doing the piped-in crowd noise during fucking live shows. I mean, they had their new toy with the Thunderdome era. That hasn't stopped them from continuing to do it even with fans in the building. And if you blame the fans for being too quiet, then put on a better fucking product. I mean, it's that simple. You don't see them having to do this with AEW. Not that they're a perfect product by any means, but I very rarely hear piped-in noise for AEW shows because it's not necessary because the fans are usually pretty loud. And WWE fans, they aren't completely quiet. They're into a lot of the stuff on the show. It's fucking a lot of these people are casual fans. I just don't think the crowd noise, the piped-in shit is necessary. It comes off as more distracting than anything. It honestly makes it's like, why even have fans back? If that's what you're going to do, then just put them back in the fucking Thunderdome. Like, it doesn't even matter at this point. Oh, man. But anyway, so I thought this was a good show, all things considered. Check out the Intercontinental Championship matchup. And we'll be watching Elimination Chamber. I will be watching Elimination Chamber along with the rest of you later on today, so I look forward to that. Like I said, though, the SmackDown reviews aren't usually up this early on Saturdays. I just put this up early due to the pay-per-view airing at noon Eastern today, so don't get used to that. But we will be back next week with another SmackDown audio review. Check that out. Two new interviews from the last week here on the channel. One in audio form, one in video form. On Monday, we spoke to the now former number 1 contender to the NXT Championship, Santos Escobar. Great guy, very fun chat. On Friday, we spoke to the current reigning, hopefully not former by the time you're listening to this, coming out of Elimination Chamber. The Raw Women's Champion, Big Time Becky Lynch, went up in article form as well over on Bleacher Report. We got her on the phone on Monday, and the interview went up yesterday. Got a lot of great feedback on that, so check that out when you get a chance. And that's about it. Like I said, the Wrestle Rant rebrand is in full effect here on the channel. Going to be working on some more stuff as far as rebranding across all my social media platforms, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, the Graham G.S. Matthews era here on the channel is officially no more. And, obviously, it's still me. It's still me, obviously, but I wanted to expand the Wrestle Rant brand, and that's really what this channel is at the end of the day. And we have a lot of non-wrestling I had a fucking brain fart there for a second. We have a lot of non-wrestling related content as well here on the channel, and that's not going to change. But I thought it made more sense to call the channel that, so I reflected that with the new logo, channel art, name, everything. And the old URL still works. YouTube.com/Graham G.S. Matthews still redirects you to YouTube.com/WrestleRant, which is cool. So I appreciate you guys' support through this process and transition, and I look forward to posting more videos every day moving forward. We have a new Spider-Man No Way Home review going up tomorrow. Myself, Raph Garcia, Doc Mueller, Phil Lindsay, per usual, breaking that down. And on Monday, my review of Broken Skull Sessions with Ron Simmons went up on Friday. Have not had the chance to watch it yet, but that should be going up on Monday at this current rate. So keep an eye and an ear out for that. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. Enjoy Elimination Chamber today, and I'll catch your ass down the road.